Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Calvin Tobin Show. I am your host, Calvin Tobin. Today we have a lot to talk about, so let's get right into it. All right, there are 2 days left in this 2022-2023 NBA regular season, and the 2023 NBA playoffs are all set up and good to go. But the play-in tournament is not just there yet. Tomorrow is the last day of the NBA regular season, and all 30 teams will be playing, and it will be an early day as well, with 8 of the games starting at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and then the other 7 games will be starting at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. With this play-in tournament, the Eastern Conference is all set up and good to go. And the games are, we will be having the 7th seed Miami Heat playing the 8th seed Atlanta Hawks. And then we will have the 9th seed Toronto Raptors playing the 10th seed Chicago Bulls. As for the Western Conference, they're going to have to finish out the season to determine on who is going to get the final spots in the play-in tournament because the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th seed are all within a half a game or a game of each other. And the biggest difference maker out of all 4 of these teams, which are the Warriors, the Lakers, the Pelicans, and the Clippers, the biggest difference maker is the 6th seed LA Clippers, because out of the 4 teams, they're the only ones that have 2 games left to play. They can either go 2-0, 1-1, or 0-2, and that's going to determine on who is going to be placed where, especially in the 7th and 8th seed spot. Now, let's stop talking about the playoffs and let's talk about what happened last night. 11 games were played last night, and the biggest loss of the night ended up coming against the Milwaukee Bucks, with the Memphis Grizzlies whooping them by 23, 137 to 114. And with this loss, even though that the Bucks did rest their starters, the Bucks now no longer have a chance to reach 60 wins on the season. And while this butt whooping was going on, the performance of the night was in this game as well with Jaren Jackson, and he ended up dropping 36 points, 4 rebounds, 3 blocks on 66% shooting. And while this game was going on, the big game of the night to watch was the Philadelphia 76ers versus the Atlanta Hawks. And the Philadelphia 76ers ended up beating the Atlanta Hawks 136 to 131. And because of Philadelphia winning this game, the 76ers just proved that they are going to be a much tougher and harder team to beat in the playoffs than we are all anticipating, because they had no starters, none of their best players. They rested their best players and starters last night, and they still ended up dropping 130 points on the Atlanta Hawks. Now, in this game, most of the game, the Atlanta Hawks, where offense was flying high, keeping their fast break offensive momentum continuously going for practically the entire game. And nobody was making this offense flow like water like Trae Young was, because he had 20 assists. And based on how the game was going, they were having so much fun to the point where they could score any way they wanted to. And they were doing this while sustaining a 10 to 15 point lead the entire time. And then the 76ers came out of nowhere in the 4th quarter, having a crazy fast break momentum that ended up slowing down the Atlanta Hawks significantly. And then with a little help from the defensive side, they ended up having the Atlanta Hawks go practically scoreless in the final minutes of the game, which helped the 76ers tie the game and push this game into overtime. And then Philadelphia just finished the game off going nearly perfect and improving their record to 53-28. But on the other hand, as the NBA regular season is wrapping up, the 2022-2023 NHL season is also wrapping up, except they're going to be playing just a few days longer, because while the NBA has 2 days left, the NHL has 6 days left to go. And what has happened in the NHL so far is the Seattle Kraken just became the next team that just clinched a spot in the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs. And because of Seattle clinching a spot, they ended up becoming the 4th team in the Pacific Division. And then the Pacific Division became the first division this year to have 4 teams before anybody else clinch a spot in the 2023 Stanley Cup playoffs. With the Seattle Kraken, they ended up clinching their spot at 96 points on the season and having a record of 44, 26, and 8. And the Seattle Kraken were amazing this year. They took a page out of the New Jersey Devils book and just went from a bottom to top team, because last year they had 27 wins and then just completely ramped it all up and jumped to 44 seasons this very next season. And it's crazy because this is only their 2nd season inducted into the NHL, and they made a huge jump. And while Seattle has been completely dominant this year, now having 44 wins, they also have a chance to improve all the way up to as many as 48 wins, because they have 4 games left to go in this season. And the best part about Seattle is that they have 3 guys that have 60 or more points, and potentially a 4th guy about to get 60 points in Matty Beniers. And the best part about Seattle's entire team is that they are a top 5 scoring team in the entire league, because they have scored 3.5 goals per game. And the main reason because of that is they have one of the most accurate teams in the league. The only team that is more accurate than them is their division rival, the Edmonton Oilers. Now, let's talk about what happened in the NHL. There wasn't any games on last night, so we're going to have to go back to Thursday. And what happened on Thursday is that there were 14 games that were played, and the winner of each game averaged 4.8 goals, with 6 of those teams scoring 6 or more goals, and the New Jersey Devils ended up scoring the most amount of goals in one game, completely annihilating the Blue Jackets 8-1. And while that was happening, the Boston Bruins ended up getting their 61st win on the season, improving the record to 61-12-5, and they ended up beating their division rival, the Toronto Maple Leafs, 2-1. And while that was going on, the performance of the night ended up going to Mikko Rantanen, and he ended up having a hat trick, personally outscoring the San Jose Sharks, helping the Colorado Avalanche beat them 6-2. And with this this hat trick performance, he ended up completing his night with a 4-point performance. And because of Mikko Rantanen's hat trick night, he ended up becoming the 4th player in the league to score 50 goals on the season. And here's the crazy thing is that other than seeing 4 guys score 50 goals this season, we are actually about to potentially see 2 guys score 60 goals this year. The first guy is Connor McDavid. He's already got his with 62 and already got to 60. The next guy that could get to 60 is David Pastrnak, because he has 57 goals and he has 4 games left to go. And his toughest game on his final stretch of the season is against the New Jersey Devils, and that is going to be his next game with the Boston Bruins. And for how much scoring and insane performances that have gone on this year, the Mikko Rantanen is actually about to become the 8th player to reach 100 points on the season. He's just 2 points shy right now at 98, but Elias Pettersson has 98 as well, so he could end up with 100 points first. And as I said, with all these insane performances, we're about to potentially see 13 players notch and account for 100 points on the season. 3 players have 98 points right now, and 2 players have 95. And there is one player that might get it, but it's really close, but he has 5 games left to go, and that's Tage Thompson. He has 92 points, and he's averaging 1.24 points per game, and he has 5 games left to go in the season with the Buffalo Sabres, and there's a good chance, there's a 50-50 chance that he could get 100 points on the season, and then that would make 14 players on the season. But that's just how Thursday night went. All right. That's the end of the Calvin Tobin Show. Please subscribe to my channel at Calvin Tobin Show so you don't miss out on any sports media. And please follow me on Instagram at Calvin Tobin Show so you don't miss out on any sports news whatsoever. And I'm out.